Welcome back, everyone. The incessant killings in Benue State, north central Nigeria, has now more than ever drawn the attention of the country as the state experienced yet another gruesome attack over the weekend. Speaking earlier, Governor of Benue State, Herdsmen Alia, confirmed the killing of 151 persons at Yelewata, where suspected herdsmen attacked the border town. Now, in a show of displeasure, youths in the state stormed the streets to protest against the mass killings. On one hand, some are advocating for states of emergency to put an end to this chaos, while others are rooting for self-defense. Meanwhile, earlier, Governor of Benue State confirmed the latest figure of casualties in the Yelewata attack as 151. The governor said 127 persons were buried yesterday. 2 are currently in the mortuary, 18 bodies yet to be buried, and 4 recovered from the bush. Joining me tonight from our Abuja studio is a security consultant, CEO, Sikmerak International Limited, Dr. Stephen Okori, for his perspective on this latest developments. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening to you, Dr. Okori.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You know, we've had this conversation over and over again. So I want us to start from your perspective as a security consultant. And I want to believe that you must have been following the security situation across the country, and you must have your own report. But for the purpose of this conversation, it's about Benue State. From your observation, field reports, and all your professional calculations, and also being a son of the soil, what exactly is happening in Benue State?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here to give my perspective on the issues bordering on insecurity in Benue State. Benue State, as far as I know, and as far as I'm concerned, is a state that has been peaceful for a while before this incident of violent attacks on defenseless indigenes of the state. Unfortunately, we have found ourselves in this situation. Before I go on, I want to sympathize with the good people of Benue. My condolences to the governor, who happens to be the #1 citizen of the state and the chief security officer of the state, and also to the families of the victims and the families of the dead. What we're experiencing or what we're seeing in Benue is uncalled for, is barbaric. For me, I think that is something that we should look at or see it as a genocide. In the last administration, the 8 years of the last administration, we saw similar incidents of people being killed in their homes, in their communities, and all that. Now, I want to believe that we have a history of this incident that we're experiencing today, and we have had experiences. And today we are faced with current realities. Right. So I want to see that we're already aware of the issues, we're aware of the challenges, and it is not too much for us to begin to look at or see that we have solutions to the problem. The issues are surmountable, they are not beyond us. It is something that as a government, as security agencies, and also as critical stakeholders, from the state, is something that I think, and I'm very convinced that if well managed, it's something that can be handled.
All right, Dr. Okori. I mean, if you're saying tonight that during the last administration, we saw this similar spate of attacks in the last administration, is it okay to say that there had never been peace in Benue State? It has just been underreported. Yes,
there's never been peace. And if you look at the Global Peace Index of 2024 that was released early this year, you will discover that out of 163 countries in this survey, Nigeria is ranked 147 as a country that is not experiencing peace, right? And it's as a result of all these incidents of crime, violence, and all that, that the Institute of Economics and Peace came up with that report of 2024 and ranked Nigeria 147 out of 163 nations, right? So the fact is, Nigeria has not been experiencing the required or the adequate peace that is expected of us as a country, right? So,
but I'm talking about Benue State, Dr. Okori. I'm talking about Benue State now.
Yes, Benue State is also part of Nigeria, right? So whatever survey that the agency or institute carried out, it means that Benue was also part of it, right? Plateau is also part of Benue. So when you look at the states in Nigeria, you look at some states that are not experiencing peace. And it's as a result of that they came up with that survey.
All right. So if that's the situation, and also according to reports, the latest attack lasted well into the early hours of Monday, meaning it lasted into the early hours of this morning. Residents say they came heavily armed and started shooting sporadically. It was like a war zone. We had to run into the bush for safety. So those are the words of some of the residents. I may be wrong, but is the insecurity in Benue State that complicated? Do you also think this issue is being taken for granted, or is it indeed rocket science?
Now, what we are talking about security issues, right? Solving these issues is not rocket science. I think at this point, there's need for us as a government, as security agencies, and also as the civilian population should think outside the box, right? All the while, we've been doing the same thing, and we think we should get, or we're expected to get a different result. The answer, we cannot get a different result. Now, when these attacks happen, what we know how to do best is that the government, security agents, and agencies condemn the act, and they tell Nigerians that enough is enough. They are on top of the game or on top of the matter. Perpetrators will be brought to book. These are assurances or messages of hope that they give to victims and all that, our victims' families. Now, I think that this condemnation, message of hope and all that, it has become tiring to the ears of victims, right, and to the ears of families. Right, but right now, I think that enough of the talk, enough of speeches, because we are good at reading speeches at security events. Now we need action, right? The time to act, I think, is now. We don't have enough time, right? And I want to say that Mr. President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from 1999 to date, I want to believe that he is the only president that understands this situation. Why am I saying this? For Mr. President to begin to look in the direction of having or establishing National Forest Guards, I think it's one of the ways to go in addressing these issues locally. Crime is local. What we're experiencing, or the violent attacks or violence we are seeing, happens in our very rural communities. And you agree with me that if you go to these rural communities, you don't have the presence of conventional security agents, right? You won't see the police, you won't see the soldiers, you won't see civil defense and all that. The only people that you see, or you can possibly see, are local security outfit or managers. For instance, the Nigerian Forest Security Service. These are the officers or personnel that you can find in these very rural communities. And why I said the president is the only one for me that has decided to bring a roadmap or a path in addressing these issues is to see that these crimes are addressed locally. And that's the only way to go. And that's why I said that the bill before Mr. President, asking for his assent to establish the Nigerian Forest Security Service, it's now, right? Because for me, I think that we must be able to see how to address these security issues locally. We are aware of the issues. We are aware of the challenges. What measures or what structure or what modalities or framework are we putting in place to address these issues?
We'll get there, Dr. Okwori, and that's why you're on the show, especially where you say we must begin to think outside of the box to solve a security situation like genocide. And I would also agree with you when you say that we're tired. Nigerians are tired of hearing same speeches every now and then. Because the most popular question I have asked concerning Benue insecurity is whether or not Governor Alia is helpless. One, because most of the violence in Benue is taking place in Zone A and Zone B, places that are heavily thief. And Father Alia is a thief man. So I would ask the same question again, perhaps in another way. Is he really helpless against this wanton killing of his very own people?
Now, you see, when we're talking about insecurity here, and I want to express, as a professional, as a consultant, I want to first of all express my disappointment. At this point in time, when we are talking about lives lost, no matter the media show, no matter the presence of the heads of security agencies in Benue and all that, these lives will never come back, right? There are a lot of women and children and men that are already in trauma. As long as they live, they will be in that same state, you know, where they saw that their loved ones were either burnt or killed for just no cause. We are seeing where their political leaders are trading blames, right, pointing fingers at XY or somebody and all that. And I mean, it is disappointing. This is not a period where we should be, our political leaders should be trading blames, and this is not a period where political leaders should be silent or quiet about the incidents that is happening in Benue. I think that this point in time, irrespective of their differences, right? Because they said united will stand, divided will fall. Right now, what I'm seeing in Benue is total division. So how can we get result or achieve result with this kind of divisiveness?
Absolutely. There's
need for our political leaders to come together and see how these issues can be addressed, right? I don't see it as an avenue where politicians will be talking about each other and all that, right? Because whether we like it or not, they all have roles to play. The governor has roles to play. Members of the National Assembly also have roles to play. The governor is the chief security officer of Benue, right? He has roles to play. I know that he has the powers to summon heads of security agencies in the state, the CP, the heads of brigades or whoever, the Air Force base, all these heads, civil defense and all that, they have roles to play in this. If the governor can have the powers to summon them to have a security meeting, I don't see that. I don't see it as a difficult thing for them, because the heads of security agencies in the state already have the constitutional powers to address these insecurity issues. What's the mandate of the police? The mandate of the police is to prevent and detect crime. How effective is the commissioner of police in Benue? The heads of the brigade command in Benue or GOC, what's his mandate? What's his responsibility? They all have their roles cut out very clearly. Members of the National Assembly also have their roles cut out. What is their roles? One of their roles as members of the National Assembly is effective oversight function. How effective are they carrying out this oversight function?
And that was why I asked Dr. Okori. All right, please go ahead. I do apologize.
One of the reasons I see that there's need for oversight function is to expose the inefficiencies of security agencies or expose corruption. How effective are they in carrying out oversight function? It's not for them to just go and sit down and they think that they don't have responsibilities to play in the fight against insecurity in Benue.
And that was why I asked if you thought this situation in Benue State is being taken for granted. And I also asked if you thought the governor is indeed helpless. But let me rephrase that question. What you've said now invariably is that the governor and the federal government know what to do, but both parties are intentionally not doing it. Is that it? Now,
let me say that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that section is very common. 14(2)b talks about security and welfare of the citizens of the state. Right now, and that section says is the primary responsibility of government, not secondary. Primary responsibility. Now, we're not even talking about welfare of the citizens of the state or of the country. We're just talking about security alone. How well is the government? When we're talking about government,
Dr. Okori, can you hold on? Can you hold on, please? I apologize. Can you hold on? I think I want you to answer this question directly. Do you think the governor and the federal government know what to do, but intentionally not doing it?
They know what to do. Okay. Just the way I said in one of my remarks, I said these challenges are surmountable, right? We need the cordiality of the federal government and the state government to surmount the issues. Now, what are we doing differently from what we have been doing before? The answer is that we're not doing anything differently. It is the same thing. When the attacks happen, we deploy soldiers, deploy police, and all that. At the end of the day, 1 or 2 weeks, they are withdrawn. These communities are now left prone to more attacks, right? Now, what I think that the government can do differently is that we have established that there's a gap in our rural communities, that there are no security presence in our rural communities. Now, The police and the military needs local intelligence to function. Do we have any security structure or agency on ground that can provide local intelligence? The answer is no. And that is why I am using this opportunity to tell Mr. President that the right thing to do, as we are talking in this program, is that the bill before him establishing the Nigerian Forest Security Service, that their duties or mandate is to provide security for our forested region, provide security for our local communities. Don't forget that these forests are situated in our rural communities. And this is where these criminals go and use as hideout. They have found our forests as safe haven, right? And that's why I commend Mr. President for approving the establishment of Forest Guard. But we already have a structure, the Nigerian Forest Security Service on ground. Rather than conceiving or coming up with something new, why not adopt what is already on ground? The Nigerian Forest Security Service has well over 50,000 personnel, from the federal, state, local government to our very rural communities that are well trained, trained by the DSS, trained by the police, trained by the military, right, that can synergize with our conventional security service and see how to provide security in our very rural communities. I think that the best thing for us to do now is to see that we close that gap, that missing link that we don't have, that has to do with presence of security in our rural communities. In doing that, don't forget that they are going to be confronting hardened criminals that are almost more sophisticated than our security agents. It means that they must be institutionalized and integrated into the security architecture of this country for us to be able to see how to address these issues locally. People will now begin to ask or want to argue or come with the narrative that we have enough security agencies on the ground. Why do we not need to create new ones? No, we shouldn't think that way, right? Let me take you outside the shores of this country. In 2001, during the 9/11 attack, when George W. Bush Jr. was the president of the U.S., when Osama bin Laden struck, we had FBI, secret agents, CIAs, and the likes. But President Bush now thought it wise that there is need to have something on ground differently that will be able to address or confront these issues that has to do with terrorism. And that was what gave birth to the Department of Homeland Security, right? So I think that when it has to do with security, we have identified the issues. How do we now address it? I think that the best way to go, as we are talking, because I am an advocate of local policing, we don't have presence of security in our rural communities. And there is need for us to have something like that on ground. And that is why I want to appeal to Mr. President that the time for him to assent to the bill establishing the Nigerian Forest Security Service is now. You know, we shouldn't play politics when it has to do with human lives. We shouldn't, these are all distractions, religion, ethnicity, and all that. We should try to see how to put all this aside and face what we are looking at head on. That is why when we don't act when we are expected to act, people, Nigerians begin to ask or say that there's no political will. I think that we have the political will. The president has the political will to see how to address these issues.
And of course, it's also very important to ask if indeed we know what we're doing as a nation. Because the governor was on camera saying the attacks have been reduced from 6 local governments to 3 local governments because of the full support he got from the federal government. And many thought the goal should be that by now, no local government should be under siege in Benue State. But when the governor is saying, oh, we're doing better now, with just 3 local governments under siege, what message does this send to those carrying out these killings? But also on the other hand, Dr. Okwiri, are state governors, this is beyond Benue State now, are state governors really interested in protecting their own people? For instance, I mean, you look at the reports, Benue State has collected an estimated 213 billion naira in security votes between 2014 till date. The notion is that money, if well spent, is enough to tackle insecurity. Does it give us an impression that perhaps this is more than budgetary allocation to the security sector? Perhaps it's about proper channeling of these funds. What do you think? Now, let me answer this question by quoting Émile Duncan. Émile Duncan is a French sociologist and a philosopher. He said a society without crime is impossible, right? Now, what that means is that you cannot have a utopian society where you expect that everything is perfect.
If the government says this is the way to go, according to our laws, rules, and all that, you expect that there will be some individuals that will choose the other way. And those ones that will choose the other way are deviants. Now, when we find ourselves in this kind of situation, I think it's enough notice that as governor, as president, what is expected of you, having taken note of this, that a society without crime is impossible, is to ensure that necessary things are put in place to reduce the rate of crime and not escalation, right? So when monies are voted for the purpose of fighting insecurity, I want to believe that those monies should be used judiciously for that purpose. Because combating insecurity anywhere in the world is not cheap. We're talking about inadequate manpower, inadequate resources to motivate soldiers and police and other officers in the front line, inadequate technology, because how well are we harnessing the benefits of technology? A whole lot is not adding up. Now, monies for fighting insecurity must be judiciously used for the purpose. And that was why I talked about the oversight functions of National Assembly members. We also have State Assembly members. And I know that they have different committees. There must be a committee for one security agency or the other. We have, at the National Assembly level, you have Committee on Army, Police Affairs, Interior, National Security and Intelligence, and the whole lot of that. How well are they carrying out this function? Just the way I said, oversight function exposes corruption. If the governor is expected to spend XYZ amount on security votes monthly, and is not doing that, what is the essence of the State Assembly? And unfortunately, the State Assembly that we have, they are not functional, if you ask me, right? So we must see that what we need to do as tiers of government, federal, state, local, arms of government, legislature, executive, let us see that the purpose why monies should be used should be judiciously used and not the other way around, right? How effective are the EFCC? How effective are they? Because we see that monies that are supposed to be probed are not probed. And it's not all of them that have immunity, right? So I think that for us to get it right as Nigerians, right, because we are talking about lives of innocent Nigerians here, and we are talking about we're in a democracy. Democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. The people that voted government into power, these very people into power, that went round with different manifestos, assuring them of security, assuring them of their lives being protected and properties being protected. It's the other way around we're seeing. Right. So we need to live or go according to our manifesto, because we have promised these people that their security is going to be guaranteed. Right. So I think that let us do the right thing. And in doing the right thing, it is not rocket science. When we do the right thing, we will get results. All
right, then. Dr. Okwiri, let's take a break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us, everyone. This is Politics Tonight.
Every major news story is with Benue perspective and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Thank you very much for staying with us, everyone. Tonight, we're assessing the security situation in Benue State as President Bola Tinubu plans scheduled visits on Wednesday. My guest tonight is Dr. Stephen Okwiri, security consultant, CEO, Stick Mirac International Limited. Thank you so much for staying with us on the program, Dr. Okwiri. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's move on swiftly. Are there signs of coordination or support for these attacks from outside Benue or even outside Nigeria? Is there a possibility?
You see, I want to define what is happening in Benue as terrorism, right? Because these are terrorist acts. These are acts of terrorism, right? And there's the likelihood or possibility that there's external collaboration, right? And you cannot establish that when arrests are not made, right? These guys come, kill people in a coordinated attack, right? So there's a possibility or a likelihood of external collaboration and even collaboration within. There's a possibility that someone or two, three other persons from that same community must have been involved in all of this. Because when you hear stories of victims and all that, you see that they were targeted. At some point, you discover that they were targeted. I got to know that there's one very rich farmer from that particular community, and they had to look for him, kill him, and went to his storage facility where he stored a lot of rice and all that, and burnt them down. Now, there's the possibility of that external collaboration. But in establishing that, you must have to exhaust your process of investigation, right? Because these guys come kill. We don't see situations where any of them is arrested. They come kill and go scot-free. How do you now establish where they are coming from, who their sponsors are, who they are? It's by making effort to see that one or two or three are arrested. Even if they are killed, at least from their physical appearance, we could see certain features, whether they are Nigerians or not, right? We'll hear that they are Fulanis. Yes, even if they are Fulanis, we have Nigerians that are Fulanis. We also have Fulanis coming from that are not Nigerians at all. So, right, but we know that they have different features.
So how then
how
would
do you now see that one or...
How then would you assess the response of security agencies? I'm talking about the army, police, civil defense in the state so far. What are the major logistical or intelligence challenges in curbing attacks in remote areas of the state? Do you think the federal and state governments are aligned in their security approach in Benue State? Do you think so?
No, I don't think they are working together, if you ask me, at the state and at the federal. Right? Because what we are seeing here is complete failure of intelligence. Don't forget that intelligence is, first of all, an information. When that information gets to a point, it is processed. And if it gets to a point, you either know if it's an actionable intelligence or a non-actionable intelligence. What we are seeing in Benue requires swift response. How quick do our security agents respond to issues when it has to do with actionable intelligence? The answer is they are so slow, right? That is why these attacks happen. You cannot come to a community and kill 151 persons and there's no response from nowhere. And that is why I am saying that the missing link in this situation that we have found ourselves is that the Nigerian Forest Security Service should be the one or the organization that should be on ground locally to provide local intelligence for the police, for the soldiers, for the Air Force, and for the other security agencies to work with. Now, we don't have such security organization or structure on ground that will provide or that should provide local intelligence. And you cannot function without the use of intelligence. Intelligence, for me, is good understanding. If you don't have a good understanding of the situation, you cannot get it right. I give an instance of Bauchi State Governor. If you look at Bauchi, Bauchi is relatively peaceful. Why? Because the governor of Bauchi, Bala Mohammed, is addressing the insecurity issues from the grassroots. And how is he doing that? He is working in synergy or in collaboration with the Nigerian Forest Security Service.
So let's now talk about that grassroots approach.
I did a research about Bauchi, and I discovered that the governor of Bauchi is paying about 800 personnel of the Nigerian Forest Security Service salaries every month. So I expect the governor of Benue to borrow a leaf, from what is happening in Bauchi. He must think outside the box, see how to, it will stop him from working with the conventional security agents or agencies. Let him also think of how to work or synergize with the Nigerian Forest Security Service. It's not rocket science. It's for him to invite the hierarchy of the Nigerian Forest Security Service, and they will come to Benue, have this conversation, and let them see how they can work in synergy and work together.
All right. Let's now talk about this grassroots approach and, thinking outside the box, because the reality is that the Middle Belt is the solid mineral and agriculture hub in Nigeria. It is also the most diverse region in the country in terms of ethnicity and religion, home to over 100 ethnic groups with ethno-linguistic fragmentation. And what some other persons will say, religious fault lines running across it. It is also the transition zone. These issues have become, or rather been, a recurring decimal since the establishment of this country. You talked about grassroots approach. So what exactly would end this carnage? Is this a case of redrawing the state's boundaries and reorganizing local government along ethnic lines. What do you say?
Now, let me also use this opportunity to appreciate Mr. President. Right? I want my listeners to understand the background where I'm coming from. When somebody does well, you must have to commend. Where he needs to double his or her effort, you must have to say. Now, one of the areas where I feel that the president also has an idea of how to address these insecurity issues based on this conversation is to see how to address the issues locally. Is the local government autonomy that he has strongly fought for, that resources should go straight, federal allocation should go straight to the local government chairman, rather than going through the state governors before, you know, they have interfered or intervened and all that with the resources. Now, just the way the president has the powers and the resources to summon a security meeting at the federal level, where you see head service chiefs, the police IG and the other security agencies come for a meeting in Abuja at the Aso Villa. The governor also has such powers to summon security council meeting at the state. I expect that the local government chairman should also have the capacity, right, to also have security meetings at the local government. We're talking about grassroots here. The forests that we are talking about are situated in our rural communities where these local governments are. If the chairman does not have the resources, because we're talking about resources here, fighting insecurity is not cheap, I've said it. It requires resources. You have a chairman that what gets to him is salaries. At the end of the month, 1 or 2 million naira is given to him or her to manage the affairs of the state for that particular month. If the chairman does not have the resources to call for a security meeting at the local government level, you can't get results. The chairman cannot function. You expect a traditional ruler or a clan head to come from one very remote community where these attacks are happening, and such a clan head that is coming with an information to give to the chairman at the local government level, where you have the DPO, the head of civil defense or DSS at the local government level. Right now, if the clan head is coming and the clan head knows that he needs to spend, for instance, 10 or 15, 20,000 naira to get to the local government headquarters for a meeting, and he comes, at the end of the day, he's not reimbursed to go back, you expect him to come back again in another meeting to come and give such information that we think that is important and relevant in the fight against insecurity. So, local government funds allocation should go straight to local government chairmen. Okay. With that, we can hold them accountable. They can have enough resources to see how to combat insecurity at the grassroots level. Right. So, what are we saying? We should allow the 3 tiers of government to function. They should not, the other tier, which is the 3rd tier, should not be strangled. They need resources. Just the way human beings need food, the local government chairmen need resources to function. Do the resources from the local government, from the federal gets to them? The answer is no.
Okay. All right then. Mr. President is scheduled to visit Benue State on Wednesday. What should the president be telling them? What kind of reassurance should these Nigerians expect from Mr. President's visit?
Now, I want to believe that, or say that Mr. President's visit, if you ask me, is long overdue. In as much as it's long overdue, they say there's a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Another best time is now. Since he has deemed it fit to visit Benue, I think is the right time, based on the Chinese proverb, right? And I think that it will give Benue citizens or indigents some kind of relief, right? That #1 citizen of the country has come to pay condolence, but I would have appreciated it more if Mr. President will find his way into these communities where these attacks have happened, not for him to go to Makodi and stop there and return, right? Because he won't see the extent of damage, right? I will appreciate if he goes to the very rural communities where these attacks have happened, right? And to see firsthand, you know, on ground, to be very sure that, okay, these things are true, they are real, they are happening to my people. He has vowed, he took an oath that he will protect lives of citizens of the country and all that. So let us see that assurance from him that as he's going there, it's not just for him to just stop in Makodi, have a conversation with the governor and other stakeholders, right? For me, it will be like a ceremonial thing. Let him also feel the pain of going down to that very community where 151 defenseless Nigerians, not armed, they didn't have a quarrel with anybody. At the end of the day, they were burnt in their houses, killed. Even the lives of chickens are worth more than what we are seeing today. The social media space or platform it's horrible. When you see these pictures, images of people killed, you see a burnt human being, you know that this is a child, an innocent child. What kind of thing are we experiencing in this country? I think it's time for us to take the bull by the horn, implement policies that is meant to see how these issues are tackled out or trashed. I know that we have problems with implementing policies or recommendations. Sustainability is also a problem, right? So I want to use this opportunity to tell Mr. President that he knows the issues based on what I am seeing. Right, trying to see that local government allocation goes to local government chairman directly, trying to see that there is forest guards in place. It means that he knows that crimes are local and they need to be treated or tackled locally. The Nigerian Forest Security Service, there was this sensitization program that they had in Bachi some couple of days ago. You see their personnel. They are eager to go to the forest to be able to address these issues, but they need the assent of the president. To be able to give them that legal backing. And that is what we need now to address these issues.
And some Nigerians have also said...
To add to it, the governor of Benue, just the way I said, he must be able to see that he synergizes with the Nigerian Forest Security Service Authority to see how these issues can be addressed outside the conventional structure that we have on ground.
All right. And some Nigerians have said perhaps it's time the president declared a state of emergency in Benue State. But Governor Alia is not in terms with the idea of a state of emergency. He says this is not the solution to ending this problem and that this call is being sponsored by mischief makers, those who won't stop politicizing this crisis. Do you share same sentiments?
No, for me, rather than a state of emergency, right, I will advise the governor to be able to call for a security summit, emergency security meeting, right, where stakeholders, political, religious, traditional, and other critical individuals that come from these very rural communities where these attacks happen, so that we can get first-hand information from them, right? And in doing that, the governor must also involve this local structure that I mentioned, I've been talking about, to see that these issues can be addressed. State of emergency, if we can declare state of emergency on security, on the insecurity in Benue, right? Just the way Jonathan did. Jonathan declared state of emergency in Yobe, Borno,
do security
the governors
summits,
were not removed. They were still in power.
Dr. Okori, do security summits yield the desired results? I mean, we've seen several security summits being held. By the end of the day, nothing comes out of them. Yes, and that's why I talked about implementation. When you carry out security summit, there's a communique at the end of the summit, right? I headed a repertoire committee in the security event in my state in Benue. Now, the problem that we have in this part of the world is implementation. When you call for security summit and you have put some teams together to see how to draw up a communique, what is the difficulty in implementing what has been decided in that very summit? Right? The essence is to see that there's implementation and sustainability. As you implement, you sustain, so that anything that has to do with security or the fighting against insecurity is a continuous thing. It doesn't stop at the way, or it doesn't stop at one point. So implementation is our problem, right? And that is why we talk about the political will. When they come up with different recommendations from a particular security summit or meeting, and say, okay, this is the way to go and all that, and you don't have the deliberate intention to implement those things. So for essence is, are you putting up such a security summit or committee to work, right? So implementation is our problem. If we have leaders that are ready to implement what comes out of a security summit, right, I think it will add to what we are asking or looking for, right? So we must have leaders that are deliberate, that are intentional to see that whatever the outcome, whoever the stones that you are going to step on in implementing this thing, you don't give it down. You go ahead and implement what you need to do, because we're talking about lives of innocent people being killed, like chicken, even more than or worse than chicken. So we must talk about implementation. Right. And talking about implementation, the last time It was Utukpo local government area in Benue State. And I remember the IGP, Kade Betokun, urged for immediate implementation of community policing. But for a state like Benue State that already has a civil protection guard, I mean, now with this latest development, he has shown renewed commitments to the people. Again, this is not the first time we'll be hearing of such commitments. What must change this time?
Now, when we talk about community policing, don't forget that it's a philosophy. It's an initiative that Nigeria went to borrow from the US. What is community policing? It is effective communication between our security agencies and members of the public or members of a particular community. Where in an event where you see something from within your community that is suspicious, you now pass such information to the police or the other security agencies for them to act. My worry now is that how effective or how quick do we now respond as security agencies in the event where somebody sees something within his or her community and pass the information to the police? Now, when I was growing up, I used to remember that we used to have foot patrol by police. But right now, we don't have anything as that. Police would drive their vehicles, come to a community park. They work within and inside the community. They have interaction with members of the community and all that. In doing that, you are gathering information. You are knowing the ones that are bad within the society or within the community. So that's community policing, right? Effective communication. But right now, even when you have an information you pass to the police or the law enforcement agents or agencies, how confidential is your own reputation or your information when you pass such information? Because we have seen situations where you give police information, at the end of the day, the person that you gave information about to the police will come after you. How did the person get to know that it was you that gave that information to the police, right? So the police must be able to address that trust deficit between Nigerians and their institution, right? So that Nigerians can have confidence in passing or giving them information when it has to do with suspicion or when it has to do with combating or addressing insecurity issues within their communities, right? So we must have to address that trust deficit, right, for effective community policing, right? Because when we do that, we will get results because we are already giving an information to the police. But we are talking about, beyond giving information to the police, let there be quick response.
All right. Now, quickly before I let you go, Dr. Okwere, let's talk about border control. The Benue, Taraba, and Plateau axis is now filled with armed groups. Arms proliferation of arms is made easy by cross-border smuggling of arms through our porous borders, especially at Benue, Taraba, and Adamawa. And many believe that there are too many structural issues that must be addressed. For you, how can interagency cooperation be improved in managing border security?
Now, the agency of government that is saddled with monitoring our borders is what do you call them now, the Nigerian Immigration Service, in collaboration with the customs, because we're talking about arms. Arms are contraband, right? We have foreigners coming into our countries. The mandate is within the purview of the Nigerian Immigration Service. The police are also there to be able to detect and all that. So there must be synergy amongst these various security agencies. All of them were established based on the Constitution or the Act that established them, and their mandates are clear. Where we see situations where there are foreigners in this country inflicting pains on innocent Nigerians, killing Nigerians, it means the immigration has failed in their mandate. Where we see arms in circulation, as I speak to you, we have well over 6 million arms in the hands of non-state actors in circulation in this country. It means that the customs and this agency that is in the Office of the National Security Advisor, Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, it means that they are also failing in their mandate or responsibility, because we are not expected to see these arms in the hands of non-state actors. What I expect is that we should be seeing recovery from the hands of these arms. When we see where crimes take place, criminals go ahead and carry out these acts of criminality, it means the police failed in detecting and in preventing these acts of criminality. Now, I'm going to give you my last word on this.
In 30
Let
seconds,
me use the crime triangle.
All right, in 30 seconds, because of
Let me use the crime. Okay, very good. Okay, the crime triangle to respond finally on this. You have where you have the reward, you have where you have the ability or the desire, and you have where you have the opportunity. Now, a criminal-minded person has the ability because he has arms. He has already conceived that he wants to go and carry out of criminality. Now, if he succeeds, either collecting ransom or otherwise, or killing people, he has gotten the reward.
All right.
Then the other side of the angle, or the crime triangle, is opportunity. What our security agencies and the government is expected to do is that these criminals, because they have the desire and ability, should not have the opportunity to be able to carry out this act of criminality.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Okori. I mean, we look forward to the president's scheduled visit, and we hope that the people of Benue State are comforted and ultimately secured. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Dr. Stephen Okori is a security consultant, CEO of Stick Mirak International Limited. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumo KW using the hashtag Politics Tonight. You're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News NG. I am Olajumo Olatunji. Good night, everyone.